All
Sure.
right. Hello and welcome to the seventh episode of Bartın ELT Language Talks webinar series. In this episode, we are delighted to have Professor Dr. Aydan Ersöz with us. Professor Ersöz was the head of Gazi University Department of English Language Teaching. She got retired in October 2006 after having worked for almost 24 years. She is currently working as a freelance. She has taught at the undergraduate and graduate levels in addition to supervising MA and PhD dissertations. Professor Ersöz has presented at several conferences and workshops. She has written a number of books, numerous essays, and published other ELT-related works. She is the president of English Language Teaching Association, INGEL. Evaluating, adapting and developing teaching materials, teacher training, and the title of our seventh webinar, Teaching English to Young Learners, are some of her interest areas. After Aydan Hocam's talk, we will have a Q&A session, so you can raise your hand to ask a question at the end. We would like to thank Professor Ersöz for accepting our invitation, and we will leave the screen to you, Hocam.
Thank you very much. In fact, I do thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure and honor to be with you guys. I hope we will have a nice session, and I hope we can answer some of the questions that we all have. So let me first share my screen. I have prepared some questions. So throughout my presentation, what I really want to do is to answer these questions. But if you think that the answers are not satisfactory, you can take notes. And when we move on to the Q&A part, you can ask further questions related to the answers. These questions are the ones that have been asked since I started dealing with teaching English to young learners. That is 1995. I know, I'm an ancient person. So, well, there are, of course, other trivial questions, but I didn't want to include them. Just because the questions are trivial doesn't mean that they are not important, because they refer to certain details rather than the main points. So let's move on to the presentation. Let me share my screen again. Yes, and here we go. I will try to follow the chat, but I may miss some of the remarks, so please excuse me, but make sure that you say that whatever you want to say at the end of the session. Okay? So, yes, moving forward is always very hard, right? Right, so the first question that I'm going to deal with is, who are young learners? Now, do you have an answer for this question? If, for example, I ask you who young learners are, what would you say? Very simply. You can write it in the chat box if you like. Very nice, Hazal Hocam. Learners below age 12. Okay. Any other suggestions? 6 to 12 years old. Okay. Wonderful. 6 to 14. Very good. Very good. Well, in fact, if you consider the United Nations definition, anyone who is below the age of 18 is considered to be a young learner. However, this definition is more related to human rights or children rights sector of United Nations. So education-wise, we're going to get this slice a little bit smaller. Okay, we're now going to refer to a huge slice of age group. So in my opinion, okay, and of course several other scholars' opinion, we can group young learners in 4 subcategories. The first one is 3 to 6. This doesn't mean that children do not learn before the age of 3. It just means that teaching begins, formal teaching begins at the age of 3. Before 3, children are exposed to language or anything else in their environment more naturally. So it becomes more like acquisition rather than learning / teaching. So this group is called as very young learners. This group is the group that attends to kindergarten or preschool, okay? And then we have 7 to 11, we call them young learners. So this is more like the primary school kids. And then, of course, with the age of 12, we start preteens. So they're just on the edge of leaving childhood, moving to adolescence. Oh my God, a very difficult period of time for them, okay? So this slice is 12 to 13, we call preteens. And then, of course, we have teens between 13 and 18. And then we go like young adults and older adults. Look at figure 1, okay? And it goes like that. Now, I know that the term young learners is a wide term. So it is an umbrella term, okay? However, there are very distinctive differences between these age groups. A child who is at the age of 7 can comprehend, can do certain things, but a 10-year-old child can comprehend much more and can do much more than a 7-year-old child, okay? So just because I say young learners, the principles are not generalizable. You need to consider the child's maturity level, okay? Now, the next question we usually encounter is, why are age groups different from each other? Okay, well, basically, of course, because there are certain developmental, okay, differences between them. These areas are not totally separate, they are interdependent, but we analyze them as individual areas, okay? Yes, they do overlap, but we kind of scrutinize them individually. Okay, so these areas are physical development. Remember, language requires muscles. Speaking requires certain development of mouth, lip, tongue muscles, okay? When it comes to writing, children need to develop their fine muscles, otherwise they cannot write. So physical development is more related to the muscle development, okay? Then we have cognitive, intellectual development. Why is this important? Because, I mean, can you talk about pollution in general to a 4-year-old child? You need to take it down to their level, okay? So you cannot talk about quantum physics, right? So you need to take it down, kind of simplify if you excuse the term, so that they can understand what you're talking about. We also talk about, we also need to consider socio-emotional development. Okay, we're going to refer to Piaget, my favorite guy, in a little bit. You will see that, for example, empathy, pity, affection, love, patience, emotions like that, and social roles change depending on the age. You can easily hear a child saying, Anne, excuse me, I'm not a child, but that's what a child says. Anne, çişim geldi. But you don't hear that from an adult because children do not know the social norms. So the mother, the father, or the caregiver, whoever that person is, usually refers to the correction of the social value of the statement, not the grammatical structure. So when the adult hears something like that, they go like, shh, don't say that. We don't say it in public. Shh, say tuvaletim geldi. Okay? So social correctness, appropriacy is so much important than grammatical correctness when we are dealing with children. And last but not the least, we have communicative growth. So children need to know different ways of saying things, register the formality level, you know, that kind of thing. And as you can feel, they go hand in hand. So social development also brings communicative development, right? So let's move on. Now, remember I referred to Piaget. I think he has the best classification so far. I couldn't find any other scholars who have come up with a better classification. Piaget says children at the sensorimotor stage or pre-operational stage, cognitive development stage, that is up to age of 7, are very highly egocentric. That is, they think that they are the center of the universe, as you can see in the cartoon, okay? So when they make a statement, they do not know the fact that they need to set up the background for you. So they start like, abla var ya o abla, düşmüş. You go like, who are you talking about? I do not have any background knowledge. But the child assumes just because they know that person and they know the action, everyone must know who that person is and what that action was. That's why they cannot answer your questions properly. When you say, who are you talking about? They go like, how can you not know who I am talking about? Are you an idiot? You know, that kind of thing. When you deal with this pre-operational state children, they can only operate with here and now principle. Okay? So time doesn't make much sense for them. When you talk about the future, what is future? Okay? When you talk about the past, what is past? They don't have that. Okay? So it is right now and around me. So let's talk about these things, okay? Now, this is important because I have seen teachers who are tearing themselves apart, trying to teach different tenses to children. They can't because they don't have the notion. What the hell are you talking about? Okay? They don't know the concept. They haven't developed it yet. Okay. At the concrete operational stage, that is the age between 7 to 11, according to Piaget, of course, that's what I'm talking about now, children become less egocentric. This doesn't mean that they become social. No, they are still egocentric, but compared, relatively speaking, they are much better. They can understand that there is an outside world. There are other people. There are other cultures, okay? They may not understand where they are, but they can understand, for example, when they watch a movie, they can understand that, oh, okay, this is not happening here. It's happening somewhere else, okay? So they can think more reasonably, logically, and they become more organized in their thought level. And then, of course, formal operational stage, that is to say, ages 12 and up, well, growth never ends. So even at this age, I'm still growing. In all dimensions, I'm growing, okay? But cognitive development never ends, hopefully. This age group can grasp and deal with abstract concepts. They can, for example, understand abstract relations that are not in their immediate environment. Now, the strange thing is, a little child can easily accept the fact that there is an animal called a unicorn, despite the fact that they haven't seen one, and unfortunately we don't have one, but they have difficulty in accepting the fact that there is another country. Okay? Does that make sense? I don't know. But this is, of course, related to their imagination, right? So they can easily believe in imaginative characters, but when you're talking about real things, they have difficulty in understanding because the notions such as time, distance, relation, kind of thing, can be very hard for them to digest, right? Yes, by the way, there are wonderful remarks in the chat box. Thank you very much for your contribution. Now, another question that I usually hear is, how can we teach grammar to young learners? I have a very short answer to this. We cannot. I know you have a burning desire to teach grammar, but regardless of the age, Allah aşkına, stop teaching pure, isolated grammar. It's useless. Children cannot understand something which is not concrete. I have already said that. And these concepts in language are abstract. They are not concrete. You cannot pick it up, okay, and show it here. This is present tense. See? Doesn't make any sense. So don't waste your time. Don't waste your energy. Don't waste the children's motivation. Because when you come up with highly abstract explanations, they're going to fail and start hating language. English in this case. Okay? Have you ever seen a parent sitting down with their child trying to teach what a subject is in their native language? No, we don't. Okay, so why are we doing that in a foreign language, especially when we are dealing with innocent young learners? Okay, well, I know we destroy the learning joy of adults by coming up with all these past perfect tense, passive voice, whatever kind of BS I'm going to call it. But with children, for God's sake, don't do it. These are just little kids, okay? Don't make them suffer, please. Now, pure grammar is too complex. If you don't believe me, tomorrow, the first thing in the morning, write in articles in English. Search it in Google, okay? The articles, the definitions that you're going to end up with will be pages, and after the second or third point, you will say, what the hell? I don't want to learn this. It's not learnable, okay? Can you imagine yourself explaining definite article, indefinite article, an, if a word is pronounced with a vowel or a diphthong? Whoop, what? Whoa, I want to go home, that kind of reaction you're going to get. But you can teach a book without saying a is an article, and it shows that this is an unspecified object, that they don't need to know that, for God's sake. You can say an apple, apples, an apple, like it is a cliche, like it is a chunk, rather than trying to explain this and that. I have seen teachers who are trying to formulate what's your name on the board, for God's sake. What's your name? That's not even a sentence. It's a phrase. Okay, automatically you say, what's your name? Why do you have to teach WH questions first, and then possessive pronouns first, and then object, subject, verb, and destroy this wonderful experience? It's just so easy. What's your name? Aydan. See? End of the lesson. Okay? It's too abstract. No way. No way they will understand. And there's too much of it. Too much. Okay? There are too many irregularities and suppletive forms. And you cannot, well, that's an exception. See, when we make plural in English, we add s, z, or iz. Allah belanı vermesin. Right? You already have given 3 different versions, and then you suddenly say, but when you say goose, you cannot say gooses. You need to say geese. I will never learn this language, okay? See, there are so many irregular things, and students will always come up with questions like, why? Why? Why? Because it is language, okay? You cannot go through the etymological development of language. That's not possible. Yes. Grammar cannot be isolated from the context. Simple past tense. Okay. Then I will make a relative clause. No one does it, for God's sake. I haven't met any human beings thinking like that, but they want to say something. There is a message that they want to give. So they use grammar to serve their message. The message is the master. Grammar is the servant. But when we teach English, we change the roles. We teach grammar like it's the master, and then the message like it's the servant. Let's make some simple past sentences. I went to school. Excuse me. When? What is the context? Right? I have seen teachers who can write 5, 6 different isolated sentences on the board without a context, just because they think that they are more, demonstrating the use of simple past tense. The unfortunate point is we don't make sentences just because we want to use past tense. We make the sentences because we want to talk about a past event. That's why we use past tense, to serve us. Okay? So I think we lose the core of language. Language is for communication. Okay? Grammar is in the language, is there. You cannot isolate it from the language. You cannot study it without language. Language is the huge whole. Okay? Right. Children cannot analyze grammar. Okay? So when you write mathematical formulas on the board, subject plus verb, ing, that kind of crazy formulas, they don't understand it. Okay? And as Day Willis says, that's now how people learn. Just because you say something, just because you explain something, does not mean that people learn. And it's going to happen tonight as well. I'm here talking, trying to explain my point of view, supported by several different scientific studies, but some of you will leave without learning. Okay? So my preference is learning by doing. Okay? But people say that there are 9 different ways of learning. However, because we are dealing with young learners, I think these 9 ways are not that appropriate. Well, of course, we can always adopt the situation or the context for children. However, you will have the video and then you can analyze this figure by yourself and see that, yeah, okay, some of these apply to adults more than they apply to children. Some apply more to children, okay? For example, by seeing is employed by children more, by reading is employed by adults more, okay? Okay, I need to go a little bit fast. Okay, then. Okay, if I cannot teach grammar, how can I teach simple present tense? I want to. That's very important. The answer is, again, very simple. You cannot. If you want to say, well, if you say, I want to teach present tense, simple present tense, that means you, meaning, and usage, notion and form. Children focus their attention on the message, function, and meaning. They don't care about the form and notion. Okay? What do we mean when we say function? Function is the purpose of communication. Why am I talking right now? what is the reason behind this message? Okay. Why am I explaining myself? Expressing myself. We use language to invite people over, to accept offers, to refuse offers, to express our feelings, opinion, to apologize, to greet, hello, that kind of thing. So there are certain reasons why we communicate. Some are more informative, some are more social, okay? A notion is the conceptual meaning. Time, that is a tense. Duration, when, while, after, before, during, meanwhile, that kind of thing. That is, no, not for young learners, okay? Direction. They draw a time diagram on the board. They say, like, this is present, this is past, and this is future. It's like, okay, what does this timeline do? Which way am I going to go? Or direction in its simple form. A 4 or 5-year-old child cannot give you the directions. You say, where's the toilet? They cannot say, well, leave the room, turn left, turn left, walk straight. When you see the library, take a right turn. They can't do that. They can only say, come with me, I'll show you. Okay? But an 11-year-old child can give you directions. Frequency, cause, equality, existence, ownership. What is your name? Your name. Possessive. Okay, let me explain. My, your, his, her. No. No. Okay? I love this quote. Well, the formula is incorrect, but still it gives us the message how people try to teach English in this country, unfortunately. Now, if you are dealing with children, you're not going to teach simple present tense. You're going to pick up one function, one meaning at a time, focus your attention on that. That's why when you deal with young learners' books, you will see different units focusing on these. Expressing habits and routines. Expressing likes and dislikes. Okay? So these are all the functions that simple present tense serves. Whichever you want to teach, pick up one. Forget about simple present tense, okay? Pick up the function or the meaning and teach it. Like, okay, let's learn talking about likes and dislikes. I like apples. I don't like pears. Oh, I love pears. I like all fruit, I guess. Whatever. I don't like what? Aubergine, eggplants. Ooh, kind of thing. Daily routines. And pay attention. This is not the daily routine of a doctor. This is a daily routine of a child. If you're dealing with, remember, the pre-operational stage, the child can only talk about themselves. Not to be sexist, I'm not using himself. Talk about themselves, so you need to focus on them. Later, you can talk about their, for example, mother's daily routines. Slowly, start from the center, move slowly to outer levels, okay? Right. Then how can we teach vocabulary to young learners? Now, first of all, you shouldn't be very ambitious. Okay. You cannot say, okay, I will teach 20 words in this lesson. No, you can't. Scholars claim that a child can learn 5 to 7 words in a lesson. However, remember, children easily forget. So if you leave the classroom saying, okay, I have taught 5 colors today, you are terribly mistaken. Maybe you have taught 5 colors, but you need to revise it, recycle, reuse, okay? Otherwise, it will never become a part of their competence. They will learn and forget, right? So revision is the key point. Recycling is the key point. Always teach relevant and related words. Are you talking about, for example, school subjects? Stick to them, okay? Are you talking about classroom objects? Stick to them, because they form a category. They're related somehow, okay? Do not teach, for example, unrelated words in the same lesson, regardless of their age. This is true for all age groups, okay? Always teach words in context. This context doesn't need to be a reading text. It can be the things that we drink, okay? So if you hold a glass or a mug or a cup in your hand, this is a context, okay? What is it? What is it? I want to teach tea. Why am I teaching tea to young learners? I don't know. Maybe I want to teach milk, okay? Maybe I want to teach lemonade, maybe fruit juice, maybe water, okay? The things that we drink kind of thing. But this is a context. So when I say context, please don't think that I'm talking about a linguistic context. No. Okay, it's non-linguistic contexts also occur. Try to use as many channels as possible, okay? Because this is how young learners learn. Usually, of course, because of some practical reasons, we cannot bring the real objects to the classroom. I mean, the teachers do not make that much money so they can bring everything to the classroom, but you can bring the visuals or the pictures, you can show videos, okay? I don't know, maybe you can ask them to listen to the sound, for example, water, pouring water, you know, or milk boiling, you know, that kind of voice. So employ as many channels as possible. Act out to demonstrate. Ask them to act out as well, okay? And remember, recycle, revise. And don't forget that with young learners, it is possible to teach certain structures as phrases, chunks, cliches, okay? As I've said before, what's your name? Don't analyze it. Teach it as a form, okay? I'm Aydan. My name's Aydan, whatever you want to teach, okay? How old are you? Teach it as one phrase. Please stick to context that children are familiar with. So use activities, materials that reflect their environment. These also will have fun factor in them, motivation factor in them, okay? It will be interesting. What am I talking about? I'm talking about stories. I'm talking about dramatization. I'm talking about rhymes, raps, songs. I'm talking about games. And of course, I'm talking about art and craft activities. These are taken from the child's life. They belong to them. So they will learn better if they find themselves in these situations. Please do not worry about, for example, oh, I'm going to use the story, The Little Red Riding Hood, but it is a difficult word. How are they going to learn Riding Hood? They don't need to learn it. If they see the picture, they accept it as it is. They do not question that. Okay? What's her name? The Little Red Riding Hood. Full stop. Okay? If you do not start analyzing it in front of them. Şimdi çocuklar bakın. Aslında bu çocuğun adı o değil ama şimdi little diyoruz çocuk diye falan. Red color. Riding Hood da bu işte, bu böyle şapkalı. You are bringing in translation into the child's world. Stop. Don't do that. When they see the picture, they accept it as it is. Okay? They don't want to analyze it. Okay? Another very common question is, how much time do I have? Is it I'm over the time? I need to go faster. Okay. By the way, time management is a very important skill for a teacher. Don't forget that. The next question I usually hear is, can I use L1, Turkish, while teaching English? How much Turkish can I use? Like negotiation, okay? My answer is as little as possible. As a language teacher, you should be able to communicate with your students using English. If you can't, that means you need to polish up your language skills. Communication is not only using language. We have body language, gestures, facial expressions, hand movements. Okay? Please consider a parent communicating with a little toddler, baby. Do they go like, shh, dokunma ona? The child failed to understand, so maybe I should say it in Chinese as well. Do we say that? No. What do we do? If this child fails to understand the message, then our body language takes over. So we grab the object and we beat the object. Pis bu. Dokunma buna. Exaggeration. Lots of facial expression. See? Do not think that you need the help of another language to teach one language, for God's sake. Okay? Because if you start doing that, then Turkish will take over. Children will love it. There's no challenge left for me. Isn't that wonderful? What are you doing? Are you teaching history? No, you're teaching language. English is not a subject matter to teach. English is a skill to be developed. Okay? I have an example here Thank you, Nihat Hocam. Yeah, that's very kind of you. I have tried to hide the picture of the teacher and the name of the teacher, but this is a real account and this is a real share. I felt so ashamed of myself when I saw this. I will give you 1 minute so that you can examine it. Sixth graders. So what is the age of the children here, of the students here? 11, 10, 11. Why are you doing this? Why? And you have the audacity to share this in your social account, thinking that you have done something good. You should be ashamed of yourself. You think that children need to learn Turkish first so that they can learn English. No, they don't know these özne, fiil, because the Turkish curriculum has changed. The Ministry of National Education has stopped teaching formal grammar in Turkish years ago. You're a teacher. You need to check the curriculum from the ministry's site. How can you do this? They have Turkish teachers, don't worry. They are not teaching them because these are not taught anymore. So why are you destroying not only English, but also Turkish, for God's sake? Why? I felt so ashamed as an English language teacher. I have heard several people saying, Hocam, I work in a certain part of the country where students do not have Turkish as their native language. So I need to first teach them Turkish. And I go like, why? Isn't that the real reason of using a common language? If you don't speak their language, and if they don't speak your language, let's find a common language. Hooray! English, how about that? So that we can communicate. Isn't that what we do when we, when I meet a German person? I don't speak German, and this person doesn't speak Turkish. So let's find a common language. Do I say, hey, Hans, let me first teach you Turkish, okay? So that you can learn English later, and then we can communicate. Does this make any sense to you guys? Allah aşkına, please. Does it make any sense? No. Why are we not using our logic, our reason, our brain to forget about what has been carved in our brains by some bad teachers in the past? Because of those bad teachers, we failed to learn English. And now we are doing the same to our students. Someone has backstabbed me, so it's now my turn. Is that the way we want to live? I don't think so. Okay. Whenever you have the time, please visit the ministry's website. Talim Terbiye also has this curriculum. We call it, the Board of Education, Talim Terbiye, the Board of Education. These are free. You don't need to pay anything. You don't need to do anything. These are open to public. You can download them. They're in PDF format and you can keep them. But don't forget that every 5 years, the curriculum is revised. So every 5 years, the curriculum can change or can be modified. So you need to follow that up, okay? In our curriculum, English curriculum, encourages teachers to avoid the use of L1 and refrain from the grammar translation method. I have recently made 2 videos on our Engage YouTube channel. And believe me, I have received several messages from teachers saying, Hocam, these are wonderful videos, but we need to teach grammar because the curriculum says that we need to. No, the curriculum doesn't say that. Just because you don't know the curriculum doesn't mean that you can put the blame on the curriculum. Okay? First, learn the curriculum. Curriculum is the philosophy. You're talking about the syllabus. A curriculum has several different syllabuses or syllabi under it. First, download it, read it Allah aşkına, then come and discuss it with me. Okay? Do not make sentences like curriculum, the ministry, the course books. No, come on. Right? Yeah, I have already mentioned this. Let me, when can we use L1? We can use L1 if we are dealing with an emotional situation in the classroom. If a child or a group of children or maybe the whole class suffers from something, maybe they are very sad, maybe they are very angry, maybe they don't know how to deal with their emotions. Don't forget that these are young learners. So if you try to approach them in English, you can't. That is too complicated for them, too complex for them. So the best way is, çocuklar ne oldu? Benimle paylaşmak ister misiniz? Turkish. Because now you're not teaching, because now you're sharing their emotions. Okay, they will understand that. The next and the last point that the question that I want to answer is, what is the key to effective classroom management? With young learners, classroom management is such a big issue. Oh my God. No, it's not. Now, I know that you do your practicum, and with the practicum, you go and teach in different classrooms. But don't forget that these are not your students. These are not your classes. You are cooking in someone else's kitchen. So those students do not take you as their teacher. Okay? When you become a teacher of these people, you will have your own kitchen. Now, when we talk about classroom management, we always say prevention is better than any remedy, any cure. So stop problems before they appear. How can we do that? First of all, we need to establish some rules at the very beginning. Okay? Create some routines. Children love routines. Whenever the teacher walks into the classroom and stands at one point, they understand that, we are just about to start. So that point should be the point for you. Do not stand at different places, different points. Choose a point for yourself and always walk into the class, stand there and say, good morning, everyone. Okay. They get the signal. Okay. When you establish the rules, İşte be kind, don't talk, whatever, da, da, da, da, da, da. Do not talk about the punishment. Do not talk about the penalty. Because we believe as educators and psychologists, we believe that the punishment or the penalty should fit the child, not the behavior. So if, for example, the child is an A+ student, an ace student, you don't want to punish that child just because of one little deviated behavior, okay? Or if you have a problem child, you don't want to punish that child knowing that the problem will get even bigger. So you need to say, okay, don't do this. If you do it, I will think of a punishment. Punishments should never be physical, never. You cannot hurt any children. No, no, no, okay? Or embarrass them. Don't do that. Because if a child suffers from a trauma, they need several years of therapy to get better, to become better, okay? Do not harm children like that. You don't want to do it, okay? For example, you can have a classroom rules poster. We say that try to stick to limited number of rules. Do not write like 12 rules. Maybe have 5 rules. Or maybe you can have signs, okay? If you have the poster behind you on the wall, or if you have signs, whenever a child fails to obey a rule, you can always say, for example, Hassan, number 2. See, it's there. The rule is there. You don't need to warn everyone, each and every person, saying, shh, don't talk, don't shout, don't do this, don't do that. No. Or if you have a sign, you can show the sign like this. Okay? Whoop. Here we go. Or if you, well, I have this first, then I will talk about that. Okay, use space effectively in the classroom. Now, usually traditional seating positions are not suggested, advised for young learners. They need some space for physical activities. So, usually we recommend U-shape or horseshoe shape that will give you a large area in the middle where they can do some physical activities. That will also give you some space so that you can float, walk around, help individual children, control the situation. Of course, being consistent, firm, and fair. So children need to know that you're trustworthy. They can trust you. You're not going to be subjective. You're going to be objective. Okay. You can also use splitting or rotating activities. You can move children around. You can create certain corners in the classroom if you have the opportunity. Excuse me. For example, a reading corner, a drama corner, a game play corner, that kind of thing. And then you can move your students around. If possible, please try to put weaker students together with stronger students. I know some people say that, well, strong students will take over, but If you put all weak students in one group, then they won't be able to do anything, believe me. And that is very demotivating. So maybe weaker students can learn something from stronger students. There's always that possibility. Always be respectful. Just because you're working with young learners doesn't mean that you don't need to be respectful. You do. You're dealing with human beings, okay? They are very fragile human beings, don't forget that. And always keep your students engaged and busy, because if they are, they will not have the time and energy to create problems. If they're having fun, if they're doing an activity that they love, why are they going to cause any problems? Will there be any problem children in your classroom? Of course, because they come from a background that you cannot control. We don't know their families, we don't know their economical problems, we don't know their social problems, etc., etc. However, I'm talking about the teacher-oriented problems. If you want to avoid them, always keep your students happy, okay, busy, engaged, doing things. This is, I'm just going to move on to this next one. There are 3 effects, educators say. Pygmalion effect, teacher expecting a lot from the student, somehow student does better. Galatea effect is student believes in themselves, so they do better. And Golem effect, teacher doesn't believe in the student, so they go like, yeah, if you can do this exercise, that's a miracle, that kind of thing, then students will fail. So see, negative expectation brings negative outcome, positive expectation brings positive outcome. And of course, the ideal thing is Galatea effect, where the student believes in themselves and do better, regardless of their teacher. Okay? Well, thank you very much. And I wish you good luck. I hope I have answered some of the questions that you have. And of course, I cannot leave the stage without mentioning the association that we founded in 1995. Please, if you're a student, of course, you cannot become a member. But if you are a teacher, if you are in ELT somehow, please become a member. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, even LinkedIn, so that you can learn about our events and activities. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. We have a huge archive of videos there, and I believe you will learn a lot from those videos. And please visit our website to learn more about us. Okay? Okay. Any questions?
Aydan Hocam, thank you very much for this magnificent talk and being with us this evening. And we will now take questions. If you have any, you can raise your hand to ask a question.
Typical student reaction. Do you have any questions? No, we don't have any. We just want to go and rest.
Aydan teacher, we just want to listen you.
Şebnem Hocam, I can talk. As you know, teachers do not know when to stop talking. We always talk a lot. However, I think it's high time we left the stage and let students take over. Because if we keep lecturing, nothing is going to change. The change has to come from the student, in this case, the audience. So as the audience, you need to challenge me. You don't need to ask a question. You may want to make a comment or a remark, or if you have a similar maybe experience or I don't know, or a memory or an anecdote that you want to share, you're more than welcome. Thank you, hocam. Thank you. Thank you very much. All these very nice compliments in the chat box. I thank you. I love being with future teachers and teachers. Sometimes they don't like me because I can be a little bit harsh when I criticize teachers. Mert hocam, I believe someone has a question.
Yes, Rashida has a question. Rashida, you can ask your question.
Hello, Hojam. Thank you for the wonderful talk. I just have a question related to your, I watched one of your videos and you talked about proximity, whereby as teachers, professional teachers, we should avoid too much, close contact with our students. And you know that young learners love to hug their teachers and be so close. So how can we deal with that?
Yeah. In the video as well, I say, well, of course, young learners will want to touch you. Please don't forget that you are an adult and you need to protect the child because the child cannot protect themselves. So if you get this, öğretmenim, bir sarılayım, give a hug, keep it short, just a few pats, and move yourself. Because we don't want to hurt the child. We don't want them to think that we don't want to hug them, but do not keep this physical contact in a longer period of time. If you want to praise them, for example, 1 or 2 pats on the shoulder, maybe 1 very short caress on the head. That's it. Okay. Child abuse is a very, very important topic. And as a teacher, it's your priority to protect the child. Thank you very much for your question. I don't know whether I have answered it or not.
You have done a well job. Thank you, Hocam.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Hocam. We have Özgün, you have a question. You can ask.
Thank you, Hocam, for this great talk. My question is about time management. Because right now I'm a prospective teacher in a high school, and one of my biggest fear is time management and also classroom management. So while teaching, did you have any kind of strategies for the time management? Of course, we all have contingency plans. Of course, we always have. But did you have any type of strategies for the time management, or also you can recommend anything about classroom management too?
Now, my dear young colleague, there's one point that I need to warn you about. I retired from university. So my past 25 years was with university students. With university students, time management is never a problem. But when I worked with young learners, every now and then I still work with them, I always choose one core part. That core part is the thing that I want to teach. I cannot leave the classroom without teaching that. All the others are like decorations to that core. So I can sacrifice them, but I cannot sacrifice the core. Now the core, if I have a 45-minute lesson, the core has to be like 10 to 15 minutes. Because remember, young learners have a very short span of concentration and they cannot give their attention that easily. They lose their concentration so easily. So 10 to 15 minutes is a good amount of time when you work with young learners. So all the other 30-minute activities or tasks can be sacrificed. Now, as a teacher, of course, my heart burns when I cannot cover an activity because, you know, you spend so much effort and time to prepare the activity, but it's much better to keep the activity for maybe another time. You can postpone it because remember I said young learners need revision, recycling anyways. So keep that activity for later use. You can use it later. I call them my chairs, you know, keep them in a place where you can pick up and say, okay, let's revise this, right? So this core can never be sacrificed. The others can be. If I'm working with young learners, I always have extra activities to support the core. I sometimes, if I can manage that, I sometimes have the core in 2 different pods. So if I cannot sell one pod, if children are not interested in that pod, I can offer the next one. Okay, but because we have long hours to teach and really we don't make so much money, so we usually end up giving private lessons, you know, and then we have a family that we need to spend time together, whatever. You usually have one pod with the car, but the activities can be different. Always have some extra activities. One thing that appeals to you may not appeal to the children. They may hate that activity or a task. So you can easily change it. Okay. What else can I say about time management? Always keep the time in front of you and check it. Okay. When we make a lesson plan, we usually write like minutes, allocated time. Like this activity will take 10 minutes. Don't do that. Okay. Always leave a kind of slice of the lesson. For example, like 10 to 15 minutes. Okay. Because you cannot be that exact when you work with young learners. I don't know whether I have answered your question or not. Is that satisfactory?
Thank you, Hocam. Yes, it is.
Thank you very much.
Aydan Hocam, thank you. We have questions in the chat box. Can you see them? All right.
Which one are you referring to, Hocam? Are you referring to Teoman Hoca's?
There are questions.
It was very
from...
educative and beneficial. I want to ask something, not about teaching English to young learners. How can an adult learner improve his pronunciation? Hocam, do you want another session? That will take a long time to explain. Just let me give you a very short answer. At this age, at this position, I still do everything in English. I watch movies in English. If I want to put subtitles, I put English subtitles. I listen to YouTube podcasts in English. Everything, the radio stations are in English, everything. Sometimes my family, I'm not talking about my daughters are more English than me. I think they are used to now using English so much at home, they don't expect to use Turkish anymore. Because language is a living entity. It changes all the time. And we do not live in the target culture. So the only way of keeping up with this is to follow it as much as we can. Believe me, I have heard teachers still saying hotel, and I keep correcting them. I keep saying, oh, hotel, that's a very nice hotel, trying to indirectly correct. They don't hear it because when it is in your competence, you don't hear it. So what do you need to do when you sit down to watch a video or listen to a podcast? You need to open up all the channels you have. So listen and please follow the subtitles. Okay? Because you may think that for example, let me do this in Turkish. Un İngilizce nasıl deniyor? Un. Müfredatta da var mesela yemek pişirme resipileri var. Çocuklara söyleniyor. İşte un koy, şu kadar un koy. Bakın, because of a teacher in your past, you have learned un as flour. And now you're teaching it as flour. However, the correct pronunciation is flour. Very much like a flower, it is flour. If you do not keep your ears open, you cannot hear these correct pronunciations. And this is only at word level. How about stress? How about intonation? How about pitch? Pronunciation is such a huge topic. The only way of learning it is to be exposed to it, unfortunately. Okay? And then I'm sorry, I'm just trying to keep them as short as possible, but Uğur Hocam says, Aydan Hocam, ELT programs should be separated as young learners ELT in high school. You cannot do that, Uğur Hocam, because unless you change the whole system, when you graduate, you will fail to find a job because the ministry can appoint you to a primary school or to a high school or both of them at the same time. So in the morning, you may find yourself teaching as 8-year-old kids, and then in the afternoon, you may find yourself teaching 16-year-old people. The whole system should change. And then, of course, if you graduate, for example, from ELT for primary school program, now you have narrowed down all the job possibilities. So you can only apply to that position. We may have more courses related to these, or we may do that later at postgraduate level. For example, if you're interested in young learners, by the way, guys, I graduated from Hacettepe University Linguistics Department. I had nothing to do with ELT. Then I did my MA and PhD in ELT, and I became a language teacher and language teacher trainer, an academic in ELT. Young learners didn't exist in Turkey before 1995. I learned how to work with young learners by myself. If you're motivated, you will improve yourself. There are so many events and activities, believe me, going on. There are so many videos that you can watch. There are so many excellent books that you can read and learn. Okay? So I don't think that it is possible unless the whole system changes. Mert hocam, I'm done.
Hocam, we have another question, but if you have time,
Where?
enough time, Ali Kılınç.
Of course, of course.
All right. Ali hocam, buyurun.
Hocam, first of all, glad that you have changed your direction. So we have you right now. And we are so happy to have you as our role model in the field. And the second, I agree with you on the advantages and disadvantages of expertising in the field, especially the young learner field. Honestly speaking, I do suffer from young learner courses, hocam, because I'm 38 years old, so 38. 38 years old, and I think not all student teachers are good fit for young learner teachers. Believe me, this is my honest opinion.
I agree with you.
And hocam, there is no such thing in, for example, math teachers or any other courses teachers, but in our field there should be, I don't know, I'm not sure, but there should be there should be that kind of expertise. As I said, because not all of us are good fit for being a young learner teacher.
Hocam, I totally agree with you. However, if you have a choice, that's excellent for you. Okay. Now, I know that you do have a choice. You can always say, I don't want to teach young learners. But if you're going to work for the ministry, you don't have that luxury. You cannot say, "Bak, ministry, I like you, whatever, but I'm not going to deal with primary school kids. Okay, appoint me to a high school." They're not going to do that. So in order for the faculty to prepare you for these situations, you need to be exposed to these courses. Are these courses going to change you into an excellent young learners teacher? No. But at least you will know the basics of dealing with them. If you are going to, for example, work for a university, you can choose that. My answer covers all those who have to apply to the ministry and be appointed by the ministry, because you're never given a chance. You're not even given a chance to choose the city that you want to work. And they give you some choices. Okay, write 5 cities that you want to work in. But then when you look at the list, you see that the cities that you want to work in do not even exist in the list. So that's why I said that will not work unless we change the whole system. Uğur hocam, believe me, I'm not going to say my name, not because I'm ashamed of my name, I'm age. You can't imagine how long I have been dealing with teachers in Turkey. I have given similar sessions in face-to-face situations, online situations. I have mocked teachers. I have made fun of them. I have respectfully warned them. I have cried in front of them. Didn't work. Didn't work. Unfortunately, I can't remember the name of the scholar now, a very famous one. It reads as like this. In order, well, I cannot repeat the exact words, but the message is, if you cannot first unlearn what you have learned, you cannot learn new things. Unfortunately, our language teachers do not want to unlearn, because I believe it is easy, you know, just to walk into the classroom and give formulas and say, today I will teach you simple past tense, passive voice. And then they feel that they're doing something highly important and highly academic. Ay, çok yoruldum. Bugün passive voice anlattım. Geber. Why? Why? Did they even need that? No. Just because we want to satisfy ourselves, we have been sacrificing our students for such a long time. Ali Hocam says he's 37, 38, whatever. I am 60. I love what I'm doing. I really care about students. I really care about children. Because I'm a mother, I know how children can suffer, how my daughters suffered in the hands of bad teachers, and how they bloomed and flourished in the hands of good teachers. That's why I'm trying to make a change. But this is the only change I can make. But I will never give up. I will continue until my last breath. If I can change one teacher, that is enough, because that teacher will change 30 children every year, or even more than that. So you should also be resistant, okay? Be strong. They will criticize you. They will say, İlk heves yapıyorsun. Ben seni görürüm 5 yıl sonra. Neymiş o kuklalar, şarkılar falan. Ay canım benim. Don't. You are not doing anything for your colleagues. You're doing this for your students. You have a responsibility to them. Okay? Don't care about, if your colleagues are supportive, of course, work with them. Okay? In Inget, we say, together we stand. We need to support each other. But if your colleagues are not supportive, in fact, if they are trying to crush you, demotivate you, because you're becoming a model, at school, don't care about them. Care about your students. Yes. Oh, thank you very much. Alvin Toffler. Yes, yes. Kenan Hocam, thank you. Thank you. You saved my life. I couldn't remember his name. Mert Hocam, am I free to go home? And I'm home.
Hocam, thank you very much for being with us this evening. And it was a magnificent talk. Thank you so much for being with us.
Mert Hocam, thank you for reaching out to me. I really felt humbled with this group of people. I have seen such bright young colleagues in the group. I became more hopeful again. So thank you very much for giving me this opportunity.
We thank you, Hocam. Thank you so much.